Cass, this is Lindsey. How are you?
Hi, Lindsey. Sorry that I wasn't sitting where I was supposed to be when you called.
That's quite all right.
But here I am. Here I am, and here you are.
Good.
Well, gee, let me ask you the question that all Fleetwood Mac fans are wondering about. You going to go on tour?
Well, we haven't really talked about it. If we do, it probably wouldn't be until, like the first of the year, I would think. It would take us a while to put something together and, lay a little groundwork with the record. I don't know that we will at all. We haven't really talked about it yet, so it's kind of hard for me to comment.
Is that something that you would like personally to do?
Well, I think that I would probably be less enamored with the idea than some. John and Mick, especially, they love touring. It's in their blood. I have never been a big tour animal anyway. I enjoy the studio. I enjoy the challenge of something new. The challenge on the road is basically to try to appear fresh, So, I don't know. We'll wait and see. There's a good chance, I'm sure.
So are you saying that you would really rather be creative in the studio than find yourself in live performance situations?
Well, in this case, possibly. And again, I'm sure I'll be a team player in depending on how much pressure there is to do it and how much want there is, how much global kind of pressure there is to do it in that sense. But, yes, I think as a general thing that I don't subscribe to the idea that you do an album and it necessarily follows that you take it on the road. The work is the work, and it should speak for itself. I don't know. What I would like to do at some point is, I was sort of halfway through a solo record, and when we began this project, I wouldn't mind, taking something of my own on the road at some time, doing a little groundbreaking with a presentation. That excites me.
So are you back working on your own solo record now?
I haven't actually started, but this project was really very cathartic for me, and it acted as a catalyst in a lot of ways. It healed a lot of things that had been left hanging out on limbs emotionally and otherwise during the period since the end of the Mirage tour. But I've written about 60 songs in the last 4 months, and so I've got a lot of stuff to look forward to.
Is there some sort of tentative date for when your next solo album would get out there?
Well, no. I think I've got the luxury of spending probably the next 8 months or whatever. That's possibly working, touring in around that too. But I don't think that the Fleetwood Mac record is going to go away for a while. I'm real happy with the record. We got some experimentation into it, but we basically approached it as a radio record. There's quite a few singles on there, so I think it's going to have a good long run, which will give me a nice luxury of spending some time, with this record.
Right.
I've got a studio that was built right at the beginning of this project. About 75% of the work was done up here at my house. And so that's there. I don't know. There's just a lot to look forward to, so I'm happy.
That's good. In the interim between Mirage and Tango, did it seem ever to you that Fleetwood Mac might not get back together again?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there was ever a question that we would do another project. It was just a question of when. It had been sort of looming on the horizon for quite a while, and as I said, I was sort of halfway done with a third solo record, and I put that down to get involved with this. It was funny because in the beginning, we hadn't really spent a whole lot of time together, so people on the periphery were starting to get into the act of, in terms of trying to organize a situation, try to get a project, launched, and lawyers to be specific, and one lawyer, I should say, one person's lawyer, and his idea was to get his idea of a creative situation for us was to get a young guy in from New York, engineer/producer, to come in and inject something new into the situation. And Richard and I were going to originally sort of waltz in and do my 4 songs and go back to working on my solo record. You know, so it really had it kind of reeked of being a business arrangement. You know, and we got in there, and it was very obvious after about 2 days that this guy he was in over his head with this group of people. and also it became real clear that just wasn't, you know, that's just not the way we do things. If we're going to go in, just do it all the way or not at all. So I just put down my work. I ended up using, you know, a good chunk of that material for what the material of mine that went on the Fleetwood Mac record. And that's how I got started. You know, as far as doing this album in general, though, I think probably the main reason in my mind that there was never any question of doing another album was that I wouldn't have wanted to have left the situation on the note that Mirage struck. I mean, that album had some nice stuff on it, but it wasn't very visionary. It was a bit reactionary, actually, after Tusk, which was, you know, quite experimental, and there were a lot of forces from within and without saying, well, we've got to return to something a little safer, and so that left me as producer sort of treading water. I didn't know, you know, what that meant at that time. So I'm real happy with the note that we struck on this album. I think it's been a healing thing, and I think that, you know, speaking hypothetically, if this were to be the last Fleetwood Mac album, I would feel very comfortable leaving it on this note.
Wasn't it, I mean, the whole idea of an outside producer coming in and sort of working with Fleetwood Mac in partial isolation and discrete segments of the group at a time strikes me as being pretty weird. I mean, did this go down with the members of the group? Okay, people kind of accepted it and said, let's give it a try?
Well, I think that, again, it was not I that initiated this, the idea of starting the record when we did start it. I would have chosen to wait till I was done with my solo record. I think it worked out well as it was because it did act as a catalyst, and I have written quite a few songs, you know, since the end of this, and it's put a lot of pieces of a puzzle that were that far away from being fitted together in for me. So I know it was a good move. But no, I think from everyone else's point of view, it was really just, I think that the want to do the record was such on a lot of levels, emotional, maybe even financial from Mick's point of view. I don't really know. But I think that it was really just more like we've got to start this at any cost. You know, we've got to just get this started no matter how we do it.
I see.
And, you know, that was the way it was.
During the time after Mirage, when you weren't working together and were involved in your own projects, did you stay in touch with everyone in the group?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I obviously I don't, you know, stay much in contact with Stevie. Exes are not. I mean, has always been a tough thing to deal with anyway. Most people don't have to work with, in close quarters, people that they've lived with and loved for periods of time, you know, just staying healthy. But, that's something we've had to deal with. I mean, I'd see Mick and I'd see Chris and stuff, but also, I don't think we have ever been a real social group of people. I think that our relationships, although they're chock full of chemistry, and in a sense it is a family that is there, and the microcosm that is Fleetwood Mac tends to sort of isolate you from the rest of the world and can pad you from a lot of other things. I think that we've never been that close socially anyway. We never really hung out a lot or went out all the time as a group and went out to eat and talked about stuff. Our interests are all very different. Our points of view are all extremely very different, you know. So I think it's always been based more on the work, all the way back to the beginning. So, you know, that's how it is.
When you did start working together on the album and after you got rid of the outside producer, did you Did things flow right away? Was it the kind of, getting back on the bicycle sort of thing, or did it take a little bit of getting used to one another again?
I'd say it did. It took a little while to sort of get it going in a direction that where we knew it was going to be going. One of the things that was exciting for me was that right at the beginning of this project, I was in the process of building a room at my house anyway, mixed down and overdub room, where again most of the work was done up here. But at the time that was being built, I had moved the console that I did have in that room into one of the other bedrooms, and in the 24-track machine. And for the very first time, the way I work a lot of times on my own, and for a good deal of the stuff on the Tusk album, if say you are experimenting with the idea of playing all the stuff yourself, it tends to be like painting a little bit, because you develop a real intimate relationship with the work. It's like a one-on-one with a canvas. Whatever you end up getting out of it, it may not be where you started. It's an intuitive process. At some point, the work will begin to speak to you about what it needs, and it sort of evolves equally. The work and you are sort of going hand in hand down this road. And that process was used really for the first time on other people's songs. I was able to take Christine's stuff home and just spend a few days on it on my own if I wanted to, and that was kind of imposing the painting over what would otherwise be more like movie making.
It would seem that from doing that and just with the title of producer, that did that make you emerge as, in a sense, the leader of the group in terms of making the record?
Well, I don't think necessarily. I mean, maybe slightly more defined as that, and because it was at my house, and I tend to spend a lot of time in the studio anyway. I mean, that's something I enjoy doing.
Right.
I try to do my homework. I'm always trying to find something new as an influence. I mean, it's almost an obsession. It's just something which is really a part of my life, and if you're any good at all, you should, you can be better, and I'm always trying to find something. So, there was maybe more going on this time that I could apply, but I think if you were to go all the way back to, the first album and the Rumors album, if you were to ask anyone who was really producing those, they'd probably say I was, because, I mean, that's just, if I had to isolate one, even when I wasn't getting production credit, and I wasn't thinking in those terms so much, if I had to isolate one thing that I do and have done all along as the primary contribution, I would say it's not per se as a guitarist or as a writer or as singer, but as someone who can take Stevie's raw material and Christine's raw material, and quite often, especially with Stevie, it is very raw, and be able to forge it into records. That's something that I've always done.
The records that you produce seem to have a very distinctive sound, very live, and even though it's very polished in a sense, there's also something kind of raw that emerges in the sound. Do you, is that something, is a unique, distinctive Lindsey Buckingham engineering style something you strive for?
Well, I don't try to verbalize or in those terms. I mean, I never really think about it in terms of any one thing. I'm sure there are unconscious things that go into it that have to do with just years of developing a certain style or a taste or an approach, but I never try to think of it in terms of, well, we've got to, balance the raw out with the smooth or anything like that. I mean, if it ends up that way, it's done unconsciously. Every song is different. Every song should be approached on its own merit and for its own needs, and that's really about what's going on. It's Michael Miles. All right. Well, I see you. Hold on a second. I see you every day. How's it going? Yeah, after this. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's okay.
So that's about it.
Where are you talking from, just out of curiosity?
I'm in, and one of the, what is the closest thing that there is to an office in my house, which is just one of the bedrooms with a desk in it and a file cabinet, basically.
I see, in the office.
It's not really an office. I would never think of it as an office. But
When you got back in to the studio working with the band again, is there something working with these particular people that does have some sort of magical quality to you? Is it, or, is it, do you think that you could replicate it, in the future with 4 other people? That is not trying to not replicate Fleetwood Mac, but just trying to create whatever good feeling it is that comes across on your records.
yeah. Well, I know what you mean. I mean, there's always, you need to have people, a balance there. I mean, I will come up with tons of ideas, maybe too many sometimes, and, you've got to have people to temper that out, and you've got to, there certainly is a good sense of checks and balances in as far as our process goes. I don't, I think I'm sort of excited about the idea of assembling a group of people and working with them and seeing how it goes. It's been so long since I've done anything like that. I think that sounds very appealing to me. But I don't, at the same time, I don't really think there's any replacement for a Mick Fleetwood. I mean, it goes beyond his drumming or anything else, just the presence there and the vibe that it brings to a situation, or a Christine McVie or whatever. It just, it's a rare sort of it's a rare fivesome in that way, and pretty few and far between. I would think that you get 5 individuals that strong that manage to stay together at all. Very long.
In the process of working together, when there are disagreements or decisions to be made, how does that work between the 5 of you?
Well, you just hash it out. I mean, it's like choosing songs. Everyone, it's a collective decision. And there's always going to be disagreements. There's always going to be tensions. I think without those healthy kind of tensions, your album would be less. There's never really that much disagreement. And we know where we're going with something after a while, and it just evolves. I think that the important thing in the studio, I worked with producers who tried to get results through intimidation, through negativity, and to me, it's all down to potential. Even just 3 chords with nothing else, with no lyric or melody, can blossom into something wonderful if you see it in that way and if you hear what's possible. And I think it's just really important to keep a nice, positive, open atmosphere going in the studio, supportive atmosphere going in the studio at all times, as much as possible.
When in deciding what songs to put on an album, do you kind of audition them for one another?
Yes, we get real nervous and start playing our songs. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think when I had offered whatever I had from the solo record, which was, I think the 2 from the solo record that made it on of mine were Big Love and a song called Family Man, which were pretty much completed. So those went over well. They went through just a whole bunch of material that I had floating around and came up with some things that Caroline is a song that had been floating around for about 3 or 4 years now, which I had never done anything with. And, people react to things sometimes that you just wouldn't expect. It's very hard to be objective about your own material. You've sort of got to listen to somebody else about it.
When you say that you had pretty much completed them for the solo album, did you redo them and rearrange them to record them?
No, not too much. I think we sweetened up Family Man a little bit and added this weird little thing of Stevie singing in the middle. But that was, what you hear was pretty much what we had. And Big Love, I don't know. I think we re-sang the vocal, but most of the track stuff was already there.
In deciding when the record came out, were you nervous about what its reception would be after the time that had elapsed?
Well, I'm still nervous. It's one of those. It's not a situation like, say, a U2 where you've got buying public and press all primed for it, ready, where you've got Jay Cox ready to put it on the cover of Time magazine. It's not that kind of a situation at all. It's one of those things, though, that I think will build. It's always been the case with our good albums that they build in almost a street way. They start off slow, and people didn't know what to expect from this. So you get the one single, and we've got quite a few singles on here. So I think what's going to happen is that, a year from now, you're going to see probably another single off of this album still floating around somewhere, and that's going to be the final test. Again, I think that we did a good job artistically on this record, but we managed to make it a band album as well. The thing that I think we failed on the Tusk album, which is really still probably my favorite record, but that's a lot of that is, the stuff of mine on there I like a lot because it's very experimental. But the problem with that record was that it didn't sort of hold together. There was a lot of that, and then there was just real traditional stuff, and it didn't seem to really. There wasn't a thread running through it at all. I think we managed to do that on this record, especially on Christine's selection of songs. I'm very happy. I think it's probably my favorite grouping of her tunes ever that I've been involved with. So, the final judgment on this is going to be down the line a ways. I mean, we've gotten mostly, good press, good reviews from this that I've seen, some outstanding reviews, and some good reviews, and a couple of lousy reviews, So who knows? We're just going to have to go. And we did it as a radio record. We've done it to be progressive, but to function as a radio record, and I think we succeeded.
Well, who does the actual? Is it Warner Brothers who decides what the singles are going to be?
Well, not necessarily. They will, they aren't necessarily big risk takers. They will go. The idea to go with Big Love as opposed to something more, say a Song of Stevie's or of Chris's Right Off, was in their eyes a chancy move, I suppose. Not in mine. I mean, it seems to me that was about the safest thing they could have done. Beyond that, I think that they tend to listen and watch to, as far as what radio is playing, and that tends to be their barometer in terms of choosing follow-up singles. And that doesn't always take hold either. I mean, they'll say, well, what about this? I suppose if we want to veto that, it's our decision. But usually there's not much friction in that area. I know that when we did Rumors, they didn't want to release Go Your Own Way as a first single because no one could find the beat on it. But we went ahead and did it anyway, and I think it worked out all right.
So you must feel pretty gratified with the way Seventh Wonder is doing at this point.
Oh yeah. It's only been out 2 weeks. It was Breaker last week, and my manager calls me and tells me all the stuff, all the chart stuff. And I'm already on to. I don't want to even think about that. I'm on to other work. I don't want to know from that. I figured we'll evaluate what this album is in another 6 months or so. But in the meantime, it just makes me crazy,
Yeah, well.
Seven Wonders is doing real well. We just finished a video for that, which should be premiering fairly soon. So yeah, things are moving along.
Do you involve yourself with the creative end of the videos?
Not Seven Wonders. The way we did it on this record was that whoever song it was would choose who they wanted to use and whatever. So when I work on my own, I work with this gentleman named Danny Kleinman, who's English, real nice guy. very artistic. He did one for me a few years back called Go Insane, which was kind of a wild video.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got him in for this. And when I'm working on my own stuff, it's a very nice give and take situation that I have with the director, because I'll bring in my own storyboards of what I would like to see, or at least a starting point, and he'll in the case of Go Insane, most of the things in there were in the original storyboard, and then he's able to sort of articulate from there and make them work, whereas my basic idea of what I have may not be approached properly. And that gives him so much more to go on. On the Big Love video, he isolated just one part. I had one of the themes I had running through it was cameras running down halls, a la The Shining, and around corners and things in a slightly more fast motion way. And he said, well, why don't we just do this thing where it just keeps pulling back but slow, and instead of going forward, it goes back so you don't know where it's going. And then, give everybody an airsick bag at the end. So that was, yes, I'm very involved in the inception of my own, the ones that I'm involved with. But when it comes to something like Seven Wonders, that was really Stevie's territory.
Mm-hmm.
She was making the decisions on who was going to be doing that, so I didn't have anything to do with that.
What in the 5 years between Mirage and Tango, I know that you did a solo record, but what others? How else did you spend your time?
I don't know. I mean, working, resting, just reading. It's a fairly simple existence here. I didn't go off to foreign lands for a year or do anything exotic like that. Just basically doing my homework, work is an important part of my everyday thing, in the same way a painter would want to get in and paint for, a few hours a day at least, and sometimes more than that. It's a calming thing, it's a centering thing, and it's just something that is really a part of me. And as I said before, I mean, I felt all this time like I've been working towards something, and I feel now like I'm really coming into the most creative portion of my life yet, and it's a nice feeling. So things are looking good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier that, being inspired by influences was very important to you. Is there some sort of phase you're in now where you're under the spell of something that you've discovered?
No, nothing in particular. I was under the spell of, I don't know. I know I'm not under any spells at the moment.
That's probably good.
Yeah, probably so.
But were you referring to, hearing?
I spent a lot of time listening to Brian Wilson's more experimental period, and I was probably still under the spell of 50s rock when I first joined the band.
Uh-huh.
I've been listening to a lot of folk music lately, but that's not something that's casting a spell on me. If I listen to artists who are making records now, most of the time, what happens, at least for me, being an artist, you tend to listen for things that you can learn from, things that will be inspirational, and so it's not like I'm going to go out and buy a Bryan Adams record. It's not going to be instructive.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I might go out and buy Kodo music, or just things that are way outside that you can draw from. But then every once in a while, being in a situation with a group where some of the priority is commerciality, and you see the limitations of that, and there's a certain entrapment factor. There's a big money-making machine out there that's wanting you to make rumors too, and there always has been.
Mm-hmm,
it's always a minor miracle when you find someone like a Laurie Anderson or Peter Gabriel who are trying to be individuals and are succeeding to some degree, and have priorities that you think are important.
Mm-hmm,
And that's, those kind of people are always inspirational.
When you did get back together and started working with Fleetwood Mac, did you find that the people in the group had changed with age? I mean, you're all kind of in your 40s or getting ready to go into the 40s. Is there a new, pardon the expression, maturity in the group?
Gee, I don't know if anyone's actually 40. I'm 37, and Stevie's 39. Nick, I don't know how old Nick is. I guess John and Christine are 40. A new maturity, I don't know. I just think that everybody, there's a lot of dust has settled. I mean, we've had our share of experiences where you had to, God, when we embarked on the Rumors Project, I was right in the process of breaking up with Stevie. John was in the process of breaking up with Christine. I mean, you really had to separate feelings, put these over in this corner of the room and put these over here, and then get on with what was to be done. And that's, that's not even that healthy a thing to have to do, I don't think. So there's always been sort of a natural tension in this dynamic, and I think some of that has mellowed out. I think it was just an enjoyable thing to do. It was a healing thing. It was nice it was good company.
Now being in the late 80s and rock and roll is kind of growing up, and you have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and all of these legendary people who are in their 60s, and you see, I don't know, I think Bill Wyman is going to turn 50 or has turned 50, and, and the Rolling Stones, well, maybe they're not still rolling along, who knows, but there seems to be this whole, that when rock and roll was young, no one really ever thought of the future so much, and now we're seeing how it's possible for people to keep on playing rock and roll into the advanced age. Do you think it's possible that, Fleetwood Mac will just keep right on rolling along for, years and years to come?
Well, Fleetwood Mac may. I don't think I will in the Fleetwood Mac situation. I mean, I think there's lots of other things to try. Rock and roll is a fairly limiting term anyway. I mean, I think that there's no reason people can't make music for however long you want to make it. It doesn't have to be perceived necessarily as a teen sort of format. I certainly wouldn't be surprised if I were to leave, if John and Nick and Christine didn't, contact, let's say, an English guitarist or something, that would certainly be in the pattern. There have been an awful lot of incarnations of Fleetwood Mac. So I can't really speak for what John or Mick would think of doing, but I can't see myself, doing that for the next 10 years, no.
Well, listen, I'll let you run now.
Okay.
That was great talking to you.
Well, thanks a lot.
And hope to meet you one of these days. If you ever make it out here.
Well, I'm sure we will. All right.
Okay, good talking to you, Lindsey. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.